Welcome everyone to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk, and tonight we have a great show for you guys in store. I have my amazing guest Jeremiah and a new guest Jana. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And the first topic of the night is I think is going to be an amazing one. We're going to have a great topic for you. So I want to start with this. There has been so many great comeback stories. There's been so many great stories in history of sports, whether it's football, NCAA, anything you can name of, NBA. And Jane, I want to start with you. What is your most memorable comeback in sports history?
Uh, I'm gonna have to go with Houston and baseball. I'm going with baseball. So Houston and the Cleveland Indians and Houston. So Houston was down, but yeah, Houston was down. It was 3-0. They had to come back and win it last year, which they did. They end up winning it. And the Indians, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It was a very good matchup at first. It was a really good game to watch last year.
That's good. And for me, I think for me, for one of my most memorable is just the New York Giants. I think New York Giants and of course the Cleveland Cavaliers coming back on Golden State. So both of those you can say can go hand in hand because that Patriots squad, they went undefeated that whole season, and then you had a Giants team who just kind of maybe you could say got lucky going into the playoffs, and they came in there and they came in there with guts and they beat the Patriots in their Super Bowl victory. And then when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, Golden State was 73-3 in that season, and nobody could beat that team. Steph is shooting threes, Clay, Draymond's playing defense. Everybody was just playing exceptional. But what's so amazing is seeing LeBron James and Kyrie and Kevin Love, those guys just settling down and saying, we're going to get this game back. We're going to win the series. And they came back from 3 down to give Cleveland that victory. And that was not just for the Cavaliers, but that was for the whole city because they haven't won in 53 or 56 years or something like that in any pro sport that they have. So it was really amazing to see. But Jeremiah, back to you. What do you think is the best comeback story in pro sports history?
Oh, for me, you have so many because you can also go from a couple years ago, even when it came to the 2011 Broncos, or you can even go to when it was just my favorite team just a couple years ago, 2 years ago, actually, the Miami Heat, when they actually went all the way to the finals in the bubble. Actually having that team of Jimmy Butler, Dragic, Bam, and all these young, hungry dudes that's just on this team. They were just the underdog through the whole start of the whole playoffs because they already was written off already. They thought it was going to be a first round and second round exit. For the first series, they had the Indiana Pacers. Many people thought it was going to go to game 7, but the Heat, they swept them. And then they went to Milwaukee. Milwaukee was favored that year to go all the way, with Giannis. They had the perfect squad there to make it and win the whole thing. But the Heat had other plans. It was just the thing of incredible and suffocating defense. I feel like through that whole time, no team had any answers, even when it came to the Boston for the next series in the Eastern Conference Finals. They had no answer for that 3-2 defense and that suffocating defense that came every time. And Jimmy Butler, that dude was on a mission through that whole series. And even in the finals, although they lost and everything to a great team of the Los Angeles Lakers, of course. But you can't deny those incredible performances he had, just carrying that team on his back, even with those injuries of Bam and Dragic back to back. That team, they're going to remember this for a whole big story and just how this team of these young guys are unknown players made it all the way, like through all the media and all the speculation that said they wouldn't do it, and that they made it.
I agree with that, and that was a very good run for the Miami Heat too, because I remember seeing that. That was a very, very great run. Actually, no one, even me, I didn't even expect the Heat to go that far. That year, Heat was like that team that was just like nobody was paying attention to, and then they just went through. There was no pressure on them. The pressure was on a lot of other teams, like I think it was the 76ers, Celtics, of course. They're always there, and they're always doing that, and of course Milwaukee. They were always in the mix. Those like the big three, the big head three three-headed monster teams in the East. But Miami went through there and they played their game. There was no pressure on them. The spotlight wasn't on them at the time. So when you have that, when you have a team and it's an underdog team, they come in, okay, well, the pressure's not on us. We're just going to play our game. We're going to play it the way we know how. And they got as far as going to the finals, even though they lost, but they got as far as going to the finals. But back to you, Jana, speaking of underdogs, when you look at the NFL season right now, all the teams that we're seeing right now, what team do you feel has a very good underdog story right now?
In the NFL?
Yes.
I'm going to go Bengals. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do it. The Bengals, you know how Joe Burrow came in his rookie season. Nothing much happened last year. But this year, I'm seeing a lot of impressions. I'm not really a Bengal fan. I'm really a Seahawks fan. But my Seahawks over there, I don't know what they doing. But the Bengals, yeah, they got my attention.
Mm-hmm. And for me, that's our next topic in the next segment. So I'm really excited that you brought that up. But Jeremiah, just to finish this segment off, who is your underdog team right now in the NFL?
Ooh, whoa. From the first game, I had my underdog before the start of the season, and it was the Washington football team. But of course, that's not happening. But the underdog team I have right now is the Oakland Raiders. And why I really say that is mostly because they're sneaking a lot of great wins right now. After, getting rid of their head coach and everything that's like that, they have been slowly, gathering up their team and just going on these great runs. And they're kind of figuring a lot of things out, especially with Derek Carr and everything back there. They're figuring a lot of things out. And I feel like they will be ready for a lot of teams that's actually coming. Because, I did have faith in the Broncos and everything else like that. But after those injuries with Teddy, and not to mention other things that happened, it just went to a downward spiral these last few games. But right now, I think the Oakland Raiders, they're just very locked in right now. And they have a chance to be that good underdog that can make it maybe deep in the playoffs.
Absolutely. So for the next segment, we're going to talk about Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson. I've heard some talk about those two guys and what we think about them. So after the break, we're going to get into that segment. We'll be right back.
Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What would we do without it?
You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk. Stay in touch with Jasmine on her social media channels to see videos, featured guest interviews, and much more. Find Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. On Instagram, it's at GameSpace_sports. And you can find Jasmine on YouTube by searching GameSpace Sports Content. First Impression Sports Talk airs each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can see the show live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you missed the live show, we have you covered. A recorded version is always available on social media. And now, back to more First Impression Sports Talk.
Welcome back, everyone, to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And to wrap up the night, we're going to talk about a very heated debate that we had a couple of nights ago. And I want to start with you, Jeremiah. So this past week, we saw the Bengals not only beat the Ravens, but destroy the Ravens. And, there's now talk, is Burrow better than Lamar Jackson? I think I would rather have Lamar or Joe Burrow rather than Lamar Jackson. Is Lamar Jackson even that elite? What do you think of all that? Like, what is your take on the Bengals? What is your take on Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson? Go for it.
Well, I think that stands as ludicrous because many people actually forget, just how talented Lamar Jackson really is. When it comes to his game, especially this season, he has really improved and took it to a different level. This year, you will see him, yes, doing his runs and on his feet and everything else like that. But when it comes to his throws, they have been to a highest caliber today. And I can tell his QBR has been, at the top list when it came to everything. Of course, you have your interceptions. Both quarterbacks have those. You can't run away from those type of things. But at the same time, I would say when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens, especially with all these injuries and all the adversity they've been through and everything, they still stand at a 5-2 record, even with all of that. And that's just not their versing bad teams, because they went through before this loss against the Cincinnati Bengals. They was on a streak of winning back-to-back games, and these are top contender teams. And a lot of impressive games from Lamar himself, because these are a lot of comeback wins, in my opinion. And to be honest, you can't really compare both the quarterbacks to me, because mostly Burrow, he's mostly a pocket thrower, in my opinion. I say he can get around, do a little bit of speed and get out the pocket a little bit, but his game is not the same as Lamar's. And I think it needs to be a change to that, because they're really mostly not the same. And for them to be really compared, especially to Lamar with his resume that's going on right now, you can't compare both of those.
I agree. And for me, I know I've been the one down on the Bengals. I'm still not convinced, honestly. I mean, you might call me crazy, but I'm not convinced yet. But I will say this. Joe Burrow is a very, very good young quarterback. He's one of the good young quarterbacks that we have currently. And then that kid, Jamar Chase, they already have a connection, even dating back to them going to having LSU years, back when they won the championship a couple of years ago. But when you look at both the teams, when you look at the Ravens and the Bengals, Joe Burrow has a lot more to work with than Lamar does currently right now. Even though Hollywood Brown is a good receiver, but for one, that offensive line for the Ravens is banged up. They're missing, a lot of their running backs. Their top running backs are injured. And for them to be 5-2, it's not just everyone else. Lamar Jackson has put this team on his back and carried this team. And then when you look at Joe Burrow, they only have 2 games where they played teams over 500. Packers and Ravens. They're 1-1. All the other teams are not good. So I look at that also, but of course you got to look at the schedule. You play who you play, whoever's in front of you, you got to play them. I get that. But when I look at the Ravens, I just feel, for me, so many people are down on Lamar. So many people want him to lose so badly, which I don't understand why. This kid literally is an underdog story of his own, his own right. And for him to not only he's improving, it's not like he's still the same guy. He's improving. He's getting better with his passing. And I believe if you give him weapons and you give him good, solid receivers, of course, Hollywood Brown is one of them, but you get him more receivers, you get his running backs healthy, and you get the O-line healthy, they're going to be dangerous. And now that he's improving at his passing with what he has right now, I'm telling you, it's going to be dangerous. But of course, Joe Burrow, he has all those weapons around him now. And they have a good, solid defense on the other side. But to me, like you said before, Jeremiah, you can't compare these quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, to me, I would compare him to like Justin Herbert. I do think he's better than Justin Herbert. I do. But even though Justin Herbert is also good, but you can compare him to Baker Mayfield, but not him and Lamar. There are two different players, two different athletes, just two different. And I feel that Joe Burrow is a much better passer. I will say that he's a much better passer, but we've always known that. When you look at Lamar, we've always seen this kid can run. This kid could go all across the field and just create, just create moves and sensational comebacks. We've seen it so many times, but it's just if he can get that throwing, that dude is gonna be like the best to do that. Like, I mean, what he's doing is hard to defend. It's gonna be hard to defend if he starts passing the way he is. And right now, he's having his best his best statistical year of passing right now, which is scary with what he has. He doesn't have what Patrick Mahomes has. He doesn't have what Joe Burrow has. He doesn't have what Tom Brady has. So it's amazing to see what he's doing right now with his legs and now with his arm. But to you, Jana, what do you think about this whole situation? What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, just backing up on you and Jeremiah, like Lamar was who from back when in Louisville, go way back in Louisville. He was just a running quarterback, never threw, never nothing. But as progression went on, you saw him more developing. Once he grew, he's passing game on point now. But you see, running game, he's still gonna have the team on his back regardless. He's still gonna put them on the map. See, they 5-2. Other things, their schedule, you know. But he's progressing. Like, he's doing what he could do. Like you said, Jasmine, he doesn't have wide receivers. Now, if he would have had wide receivers, now that's a different story. That's a different Lamar. We never seen that different type of Lamar. We only seen running Lamar. So, I'll pick Lamar over Joe Burrow. Like, Joe Burrow to me is like Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know how to say his last name, but to me he's like Tua.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, I compare
Like
him
Tua
because
I mean,
Tua's an inside type of person. Like, he stay in the pocket. If there's green grass open, he's gonna run, obviously, but he's a stay in the pocket type of person. But Tua would throw it, but like sometimes things happen. And then
wow.
when Lamar, like I'd rather put a comparison with Kyle Murray.
Mhm.
Those two,
Definitely.
I could see a comparison. Like, we could go on and on, talk on and on with Kyle Murray and Lamar Jackson.
I can agree with that.
I
I
agree
can
with that.
see where you come with that, with Kyler Murray and Lamar. But what's so crazy is, like, when it comes to Lamar, it's not like he can't throw. Like, it's
Yes.
just
You definitely.
of him being consistent. It's of him being like, okay, can you consistently do that?
Yeah.
Right now, as we speak of this year, what we're seeing from him, he is becoming a much better passer.
Yeah.
If you give him weapons, and like you said, when you said Kyler Murray has way more weapons.
Has
than Lamar Jackson.
weapons.
And
So
and
if
this
you
is my thing.
give Lamar that, give him that,
And look, this is
you
my
tell me what's
thing.
gonna happen.
Like, even when it comes to bro, like, have we seen enough to even compare him to Lamar?
No.
We haven't even
That's
really seen
true.
enough,
But
like, to
I
really.
will
This
say
is his
this.
second year. He had an injury before.
Mhm.
They weren't doing too good before Chase got there when they have
Yep.
on this run. So you can't really tell until time go. You already seen what Lamar can do with his MVP.
Yep.
Got his team to the playoffs a little further this last year.
Mhm.
It's only
I'm
up
gonna
from
say
here when
this
it comes to
about
him.
that. When it comes to Joe Burrow, I think the only thing we can say, when it comes to that, is Burrow won a championship. They're gonna put that. Okay, they both won Heisman's.
Yeah, the Heisman,
Okay,
but bro got
facts.
the
But then you look at that year that Joe Burrow had at LSU when they won the championship, and they went undefeated and won, and the way they did. They're gonna always say that. But here's my thing: the fact that you're picking someone over a MVP guy, like this guy won the MVP. This is not just someone who, oh no, this dude won the MVP. He had a number one seed. Now they lost to that Titans team. That was a whole crazy year. But this is an MVP guy who got his team to a number 1 seed before. This is not just somebody who's not, okay, he just got drafted or whatever. No, this kid put this team on his back, and he's constantly all I ask the Ravens to do, get that man weapons, get him weapons, shore up that O-line. You give him his running backs back, make sure they get healthy, but you give him receivers and you tell me what's going to happen. That's all I got to say. But thank you guys so much. That was a great conversation. We have to have more of those. That wraps up tonight's show. Thank you, Jana, for joining. Thank you, Jeremiah. It's always a pleasure. And we will see you guys next week here on Monday on Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Have a good night.
Bye.